Welcome to another exciting episode from Marvelous Videos. I'm your host, Tia Ayer. Rise and Fall of Bloodborne. Hidetaka Miyazaki's classic Bloodborne, developed by renowned video game studio FromSoft, is one of those games that at a first glance appears to have a relatively simple plot. The story appears to be just left up to the players in this game, which appears to be all about the action. It's hard to fault someone for thinking that, particularly if they are acquainted with FromSoft's earlier creations. But if they delve far enough, gamers will discover a wonderful collection of masterful narrative turns and create a vast tale about ambition, mankind, and its impending doom. Going through them will be worth the effort of any lore enthusiast because the tale of Bloodborne is both tremendously weird and incredibly intriguing. Today we dive deep into this and go over everything that made it a household name among gamers. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Rise of Bloodborne. Given the enormous critical and economic success of Elden Ring, many people believe Bloodborne to be the best game in FromSoft's illustrious portfolio, which is a huge statement. The game features a ton of incredible stories that almost all fans weren't even informed of, and its excellent fast-paced gameplay and excellent narrative make it one of the best experiences on the PlayStation 4. Below are some of the greatest Bloodborne stories ever told. The setting of the game is Yharnam, a rundown Victorian Gothic metropolis that is home to the Healing Church, a sizable religious institution that helped develop the idea of blood ministration. The blood utilized by the Healing Church is special and acts as a powerful medicinal treatment that can nearly always heal illness, from minor injuries to contagious infections. The player assumes the role of one of the many visitors who have traveled to the city over the years in search of the Healing Church's sanctified blood to relieve their ailments. However, this traveler has a different goal in mind because they are looking for something enigmatic and mystical that is unknown to most people. It is not just a select few. Pale blood. The player's adventure in Yharnam starts as the blood priest injects them with blood. Upon waking up, it will be apparent that the city is affected by an endemic disease that has turned the majority of its residents into beasts, while the others relentlessly hunt them. Then in order to survive, the player must make their way through the city of Yharnam while avoiding its horrific beasts and viciously deranged residents. The Hunter's Dream, a phantom world that serves as both a refuge and a factory for the player's weapons, will be reached soon after that. The player then meets Gurman, an older gentleman in a wheelchair who gives hunters like the player themselves advice, and the doll, a live breathing doll that helps the player level up. Gurman instructs the player that they must take out the numerous creatures terrorizing Yharnam in order to find the solution they desire. A third-person action RPG is called Bloodborne. The fundamental concept of the game, similar to the Souls games, encourages trial and error in order to overcome its difficulties by using death to educate players how to behave in dangerous circumstances. Blood echoes, which are used for leveling up, improving gear, and purchasing supplies, can be obtained by beating opponents. Though certain changes have been made to the system, Bloodborne's combat is comparable to that found in the Souls games. Instead of the calm type of fighting found in earlier games, Bloodborne pushes the player to take a more offensive approach. This not only speeds up the action, but also leaves the player less dependent on defense to stay alive. The opponents are tough and strong, so if you wait passively to act, you'll get devoured and murdered, as per Miyazaki. Fall of Bloodborne. Players were mostly turned by the redundancy brought on by the absurdity-long intervals between save points that were populated by enemies and the equally absurd 40-second load periods each time that you had to restart the game. To be clear, there are no milestones between the beginning of Central Yharnam and first section and the time that you defeat the boss. Although challenging games are fantastic, you should want your accomplishments to be acknowledged and also acknowledged when you are overcome by a large enemy or hurdle. The very last thing you need to be is instructed to repeat something over and over again until it becomes meaningless. Precisely what Bloodborne does to a young, inexperienced player. It takes the accomplishment of slaying a sizable number of nasty villagers or a few monsters and diminishes it to boredom by forcing you to kill those exact opponents so frequently that it becomes more of a job than a game. This resulted in a downward cycle of frustration and impatience. Players try to take shortcuts, usually by jumping into combat and biting off more than they can chew because they get bored with the idea of playing the same level over and over again, simply to get to the portion that was giving them difficulties. that typically came to an unexpected conclusion, people would become even more furious as a consequence of that obstacle. The accompanying loss of stuff and a further 40 seconds of your life, and the process would continue. Is there going to be a Bloodborne 2? Now that nearly everyone has finished Elden Ring and there is still time for a restoration of the Dark Souls 3 networks, more and more people are looking towards Sony in the hopes of seeing a Bloodborne sequel or remake. Sony and FromSoft, meanwhile, have said nothing about the matter. Fans were hoping for a revelation to be made in the most recent state of play, but numerous insiders and leakers have been taunting them. But it didn't come to that. When Bloodborne was published on the PlayStation 4 in 2015, it was nothing less than a genre gem. Since then, a successor has caught fans' attention. However, the creator, Hidetaka Miyazaki, has consistently been preoccupied with other endeavors, and FromSoft has never responded. The first rumor about the potential Bloodborne sequel emerged in October 2021. "You haven't seen the last of Bloodborne." "I will tell you that," said Colin Moriarty during a segment of the Sacred Symbols podcast. The fact that Moriarty is as dependable as PlayStation source and a veteran IGN journalist led to major headlines. None appear to be real at this time since Sony hasn't made any explicit disclosures. It's also likely that Moriarty was merely discussing the PS5 or PC ports of Bloodborne. Despite this, Bloodborne 2 appears incredibly unlikely right now because neither Sony nor FromSoft has made any public announcements. On this podcast, Colin Moriarty also revealed that Bluepoint Games, the company behind Bloodborne, is also developing a potential sequel. If that's the case, the development has already been underway for 2 years. Elden Ring, another work of art by FromSoft, was created in about 4 years and 9 months. Bloodborne 2 could be released in 2025, possibly later, or even early if it follows the same cycle as its predecessor. The release date of Bloodborne 2 is still unknown. Even the confirmation is pending. According to recent rumors, the PS5 edition is currently in the spotlight. Marvelous verdict. Bloodborne is a breathtaking, demanding, and taxing journey through a beautiful environment that gives the impression that you are about to enter the depths of lunacy. The pace is affected by lengthy load times and a few small frame rate hiccups, but the game is still extremely difficult and rewarding. Unlocking its mysteries and winning in spite of its request for an ounce of your flesh has a tremendous amount of power. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.